Like and subscribe, and you'll have amazing luck for the rest of the week. There are many cool things around the world, and some of the people who get to discover these strange things firsthand are archaeologists. From mummies to evidence that giants lived amongst us, we'll tour around the world to find out some of the discoveries retrieved by archaeologists that weren't supposed to be found by mankind. What exactly did they unearth from the depths of the earth? A portal to hell? Stick around and find out.
Number 12.
Giants' Graveyard. Ever imagined whether giants legitimately existed in the past? This finding, unearthed deep in soil by archaeologists, will leave you questioning for sure. The humongous skull made an internet frenzy after it was posted online. Some linked it to the steading of the hill giant chief story, while others, who were more religiously inclined, believed they were prophets in Islam. Just like the Incredible Hulk, these folks were so huge and strong that they could uproot trees using their bare hands. Remember Goliath? Probably a close descendant. This finding removes all doubt about the existence of giants. I, however, hope that there aren't more of their kind hidden in plain sight, because ogre and giant stories give me the creeps.
Number 11.
Codex GIGAS. The discovery of one of the most mysterious books left everyone ducking for cover with some holy water, because it wasn't like any other. The Codex GIGAS, better known as the Devil's Bible, was jolted down in the Bohemian monasteries by one individual who believed the devil saved his life. Myth has it that he also got the insight and ideas from the devil himself to script this mysterious text. The controversial book was discovered by Swedish soldiers back in the 14th century from the Imperial Library. Up to date, the book interpretation has been difficult to evaluate, with no one willing to have the guts to go through this massive-sized book. Yikes. By the looks of things, I don't think this book was meant to be revealed to mankind at any given point. Would you care to have a read for $10 million? Number 10. The PHAISTOS Disc. The backstory of this discovery of the PHAISTOS Disc is one weird one. The Greek man who discovered this ancient gem was going about his business in an old abandoned basement when he came about something disc-shaped protruding in the ground. Curiosity drew him to pull it from the earth, where it was loosely attached, and further investigate what this clay-structured object really was. The weird symbols indented on the surface of this disc seemed rather mysterious. Since then, no one has had any information about who created it or why, making it even more trickier to decipher. Theories have been made about this ancient disc, including one that claims to have been the work of extraterrestrials. I doubt this artifact was meant for the eyes of man. Number 9. Iron Pillar of Delhi. Some of the strongest metals on planet Earth are gold and steel. Then down at number 5 comes iron. This means that there's a high probability that after a couple of years, even the strongest iron will be affected by nature. Either it will rust or deform slightly from its original form, but somehow the rules of science don't apply to all irons, especially the Iron Pillar of Delhi, which has withstood 10 centuries without rusting. It stands 7 meters tall in the square of the Quebec complex at MOAI in India. It's become the reason for the tourist overflow, who wish to marvel at how exactly this is possible. It doesn't have a dent, not even a single strain of rust on it. This makes it one of the weirdest discoveries ever. Number 8. ULFBERT Swords. Vikings have made such a strong comeback on our screens with movie features like The Last Kingdom and The Vikings of Valhalla. They're characterized by strong men who defend their lands as warriors and wielded swords that seemed as strong as the hammer. If you thought that this was something the directors came up with, then you're so wrong. Thanks to archaeologists who discovered the Albert sword from human history, it's said to be made with the strongest metal ever formed, and with very modern technology from the time that they were in existence. 170 swords, and many years later, nobody can explain how these uncivilized humans came up with such a sophisticated method of sword production. Number 7. Ancient Earthquake Detector. By the looks of things, you'd think that this artifact is some form of a game. It has frogs seated with their mouths open, dragons hanging at the top of what seems like a vase, and a strange ball that drops into the frog's mouth. This assumption is far from the fact, which I dare say is rather fascinating. This is an ancient Chinese artifact designed to measure the size of earthquakes. It's so exquisite that no one has been able to work around how exactly it operated. They assume that when there was an earthquake, this thing would drop the ball with a different intensity. The faster it fell, the stronger the earthquake. Archaeologists and scientists are still baffled by how they could create such a masterpiece. But for me, I'm wondering where the artifact was positioned for it to make this measurement. Number 6. Greek fire. The word Greek is commonly associated with mysticism, and the wonder of the Greek fire just adds to the mystery. So apparently, the Greeks were able to come up with a way to make a fire burn in water, which you know should be impossible if you ever stepped into a science class. Somehow, they made it happen, and that's how they touched the tip of their arrows and dealt with a lot of their enemies in the water. How did they come up with such power? I don't know, but I could bet it has something to do with wizardry and witchcraft. Number 5. Black PHASOFAGOS sarcophagus. What are some of the worst things that an archaeologist could unearth? A strange creature is absolutely one of them, but how about a black coffin that holds a strange creature? After an evacuation, a couple of archaeologists were overwhelmed after they found a strange sarcophagus in the pit. They carefully took it out and went home with it. I expect everyone who knew about this discovery feared finding out what was inside. They found 3 bodies, bundled together and floating in what seemed like parts of the sewer. Yuck! Because there wasn't any evidence of who the bones belonged to, this excavation remains a mystery till today. Number 4. Sound Magnifying Ancient Chamber. I can understand when someone tells me they want to get a boombox or a Bluetooth speaker. But what would one need a sound magnifying chamber for? Unless they were psycho, to say the least. The Hypogeum is an ancient temple that holds this strange chamber. To think that temples were holy places of worship, you'd wonder what unholy creators they kept hidden in there. Nothing more is known about the chamber apart from what I just told you. Take a trip to the islands of Malta and find out what people who go in have to say about the place. And see if it's true that you don't hear a thing after you go inside there. Number 3. Death Whistle. When you hear the word death whistle, you'd assume that it's one of those creepy artifacts that the Grim Reaper uses on his victims. You're wrong, because this is a man-made artifact that was used by humans during a very strange time when people thought that other people could be offered as sacrifices to the gods. After a lot of research, archaeologists discovered that it was used by one of the sacrificial victims to guide them to a peaceful afterlife. After such a horrifying way to go, I truly hope those souls found the peace they truly deserved. Number 2. The MOAI statues. Archaeologists were stunned when they found a bunch of stoned monoliths on Easter Island. They suspect that the people of Rapa Nui were responsible for sculpting the statues and using them as fertility gods who would ensure that the soil that they were to plant on was rich enough to feed them year after year. According to scientists, this weird practice might have worked as the area around where the monoliths were discovered was found to be very fertile. It had all the minerals needed to sustain a good yield. This gives a reason as to what they were used for, and we know how they came about. The question that remains is, how did they get moved to their current position? It must have taken 1,000 people with strong muscles. Number 1. The Flying Man of India. Aladdin, is that you? I had to see the photo of the Indian Vimana technology to believe that people actually used air transport back in ancient times. I don't know how the engineers managed to compile such an antique using an assortment of metals that was convenient back in the day. Even today, advanced technology has been unable to explain this phenomenal discovery. It seems they were engineering gurus.